Patch 14.10 is the biggest update we've seen all season long, with major changes to items, summoner spells, and runes. As a result, the meta will be on the move, so we've got you guys covered with 3 of the best champions for every single role. And remember, if you're struggling to climb in League, SkillCapped is the only place that guarantees you'll climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. Otherwise, you can claim a full refund. We do this because our service really works, and this is the best time of the season to get in on SkillCapped, as we've just released tons of site-exclusive courses designed for you to power learn the most important concepts for climbing in League of Legends stupidly fast, compared to those who don't use SkillCapped. Join today for unlimited access to the world's most famously effective League of Legends guides, and remember, one subscription gives you access to all of our other games as well. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below to stop wasting time being hard stuck and get the rank you actually want. And with that said, let's get into it. For the top lane in 14.10, the major changes that will influence the role are the nerfs to Ghost and removal of lethal tempo. This should really open things up even more for a champion that was just buffed in 14.9, being Kennen. The change to Kennen's R has been amazing, as you are no longer forced into a fixed position when using the spell and are able to continue moving while casting it. This makes Kennen's all-in play feel a lot more consistent, and especially for later game teamfights, his instant burst combo is much more reliable. Every second counts in a late game fight, and for such a high impact spell like Kennen's R, just saving that extra bit of time is huge. Matchup wise for Kennen, he's always struggled more into picks like Aurelia and Camille, who have easy access right on top of him. Lethal tempo being gone from the game should help alleviate the Aurelia matchup, but she's a good ban choice regardless. Standard build for Kennen revolves around Rocket Belt with Shadow Flame 2nd and Rabadon's or Zanya's 3rd. It's airy for the Keystone rune with Nimbus Cloak, Transcendence, and Scorch, followed by Taste of Blood and Ultimate Hunter for secondaries. Among all the top lane champs who are indirectly nerfed for 14.10, there's one bruiser who's indirectly buffed, and it's Urgot. Riot has buffed Black Cleaver for this patch, and since Urgot rushes the item, he benefits a lot more from this change than any other champ in the game. Considering Urgot has been one of the best top lane champs in recent patches already, this change just pushes him into the upper percentile even more. Urgot doesn't run Ghost or Lethal Tempo either, so while many champs around him become weaker, he's going to be loving 14.10. Matchups like Yone, Jax, Trundle, and Aurelia are going to become so much easier for Urgot in the early game, as fighting back without Lethal Tempo will be extremely hard for them. The only matchup that most Urgot players are running into issues with right now is Mordekaiser, so he's a good ban choice. For the build, it's a Black Cleaver rush into Hullbreaker 2nd and Sterix Gage 3rd. Grab Fleet Footwork for the Keystone rune with Triumph, Haste, and Last Stand. Conditioning and Overgrowth are the optimal secondaries. A top lane champ who has been on the outside looking in over the past few patches who makes the top 3 for 14.10 is Camille. With the likes of Trundle and Darius both becoming weaker for this patch, Camille cracks the solo carry list as she's walking away unscathed of any negative changes. Ever since her buffs from 14.7, Camille has been one of the better top lane champs, but she'll take that extra step forward for 14.10. Jax and Trundle have actually been 2 matchups that most Camille players have struggled more against in recent patches, so them losing Lethal Tempo is going to make those lanes much easier for her. Since a lot of Camille's strength comes from her dive threat and backline access, using your ban on a meta peel support like Janna is good value. The core build you should be running on Camille consists of Trinity Force into Ravenous Hydra 2nd and Sterix or Shojin 3rd. If you're looking to split to win, Shojin is great, but if you plan on forcing 5v5 fights, grab Sterix for the added survivability. The rune setup for Camille revolves around Grasp with Shield Bash, Bone Plating, and Overgrowth, while Free Boots and Biscuits are for secondaries. A jungler who has already been extremely powerful in recent patches and who will only become even better for 14.10 is Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai has been one of the more slept on champs ever since her overhaul, and as a Black Cleaver user, she's going to be loving the buffs to the item. With the ADC item rework for this patch, the priority around bot lane is going to be important, and there's few with more early game impact than Rek'Sai. With Infinity Edge heavily buffed, whichever ADC hits that spike first is going to be extremely powerful, so playing towards bot and accelerating your ADC into their spikes is something you can look to do really well with Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai really hates playing into champs who can negate her early gank strength, so banning out Morgana or Lulu is a good idea. Stridebreaker is the best rush item for Rek'Sai, followed by Black Cleaver 2nd and Sterix or Death's Dance 3rd. It's Conqueror for the Keystone rune with Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace. Best secondaries are Magical Footwear and Cosmic Insight. Coming off some buffs from 14.9 and breaking into the solo carry top 3 for the first time this season is Amumu. Base stat buffs always tend to fly more under the radar, as even we didn't expect for Amumu to gain as much power as he has from the changes. The change that will influence Amumu in 14.10 is the adjustment to Sunfire Blackfire Aegis. The item is losing health, but in exchange for gaining ability haste, and from a gold efficiency standpoint, this is actually a buff. The 2-item core that's leading to really good results for Amumu right now consists of Sunfire Aegis and Liandry's. You have a really nice mix of damage and tankiness coming out of this core, and from then on out, you transition into situational tank items. Since so much of Amumu's strength comes from being able to find those backline dive plays where you hit multi-man Rs, banning out a champ like Janna who can spoil those plans is good value. The best rune page for Amumu is Conqueror with Triumph, Haste, and Last Stand, while Cheap Shot and Ultimate Hunter are for secondaries. 14.10 is going to be a really interesting one for AP junglers, as Riot's introducing a new mage item, and with Brand already in a great spot as of recent, he's going to have another option in his build path. With Brand, his 2 core items are Liandry's and Rylai's, but after that, there isn't anything that he necessarily needs to be effective. With Blackfire Torch entering the mix and providing a burn passive like Liandry's, it could add for a really nasty 3-item core. Blackfire has a passive that provides you with bonus damage to monsters, so if the item does slot into Brand's build path, it would be the most optimal as a rush so that your early to mid game clear is heavily amplified. Matchup wise for Brand, you want to try and avoid assassin junglers as they make it more difficult for Brand to function in mid to late game fights, so right now Kayn or Kha'Zix are good bans. The best rune setup for Brand jungle consists of Dark Harvest with Cheap Shot, Eyeball Collection, and Treasure Hunter, roll with Magical Footwear and Cosmic Insight for secondaries. Back in the mid lane top 3 for 14.10, Brand is the best mid laner that you can play. As if the champ wasn't already strong enough, there's a new item that's been added this patch called Blackfire Torch, which in theory should work amazing for Brand. It's pretty similar to Liandry's as it has a burn passive. However, the key difference is that Blackfire has mana while Liandry's has health. Liandry's and Rylai's will always be great core items for the champ, but what we could see is Blackfire being the new rush item with Rylai's and Liandry's to follow. Right now, a lot of Brand players are either going Malignants or Zhonya's as their third purchase, so we definitely think Blackfire would be a more attractive option than either of those. 14.10 should also be really great for Brand due to the fact that Yasuo and Yone both become weaker early on with lethal tempo out of the game. Brand was already winning over 54% of the time against both champs in recent patches, so that number likely rises even more now. Not a lot of champs you really got to worry about with Brand, but if we were to recommend one champ you want to avoid, it would be Fizz, as his long range catch and mobility are difficult to play around. Standard rune page for Brand mid consists of Comet with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch, while Presence of Mind and Coup de Grace are the best secondaries. One mid lane champ who has shot up in strength due to more of a hidden change from 14.9 is Vex. Vex had her collision radius reduced from 65 to 55, which makes it more difficult for enemies to hit her with skill shots. Vex had already been in a pretty good spot prior to this change, so it was enough to propel her into the upper percentile of solo queue champs. Vex has always been a really good counter to many melee mids, and it's only going to get even better moving forward. Yone and Yasuo losing lethal tempo should make those matchups better for Vex, as she had been winning over 55% of the time against them in 14.9. It's only longer ranged catch champs that can give Vex more issues, so using your ban on Lux is good value. The core build for Vex consists of a Luden's Rush into Storm Surge 2nd and Shadow Flame or Zhonya's 3rd. Best keystone rune is Electrocute, followed by Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, and Ultimate Hunter. Grab Mana Flow and Transcendence for secondaries. Rounding out the top 3 for mid lane is the best melee mid you can play right now, being Sylas. Mid-game spike of Sylas is incredibly strong right now, as level 9 with Lichbane turns the champion into an absolute monster in skirmishes. The constant Spellblade procs from Lichbane coupled with the low cooldown heal from W gives Sylas such a strong extended fight. You even take Electrocute with this iteration of Sylas, so you're almost playing him more like an assassin than an AP fighter, as the burst is incredible. The one matchup that is giving the majority of Sylas players a lot of issues right now is Galio, so he's a good ban choice. Just the tankiness and point and click taunt make it very difficult to snowball off of Galio, and he does a really good job at shutting Sylas down in skirmishes as well. With all the new item changes in 14.10 for ADC, it's going to take a patch or two until we truly figure out what the solidified meta looks like for the role, so our top 3 for this patch is going to be more of a prediction than cut and dry top 3. With that said, we expect for Draven to come out of 14.10 as one of the bigger winners. Of course, lethal tempo is being removed, and that is a rune a lot of Draven players have liked, but we don't think he's going to be hit as hard from the removal as other ADCs. Even though lethal had been most popular on Draven for a while, a lot of other keystone runes can work on him just fine. Conqueror and Press the Attack actually had better win rates than lethal tempo on Draven in recent patches, so he should be able to swap over to either of those and not be hurt hurt much at all by Lethal Tempo's removal. It's really the Infinity Edge and Bloodthirster changes, though, that we expect to push Draven over the top. Both items are getting a ton more raw AD and will allow for Draven's axe to hit extremely hard in the mid game. The shield is coming back on Bloodthirster as well, which should be really nice for Draven since he's an ADC who needs to be up close and will always be getting value out of the shield. It's hard to say what the optimal build order will end up looking like, but something along the lines of the Collector as a rush into IE second and then Bloodthirster third should be a pretty solid build in 14.10. BT could even come back as a rush item as well. There's honestly just a lot of potential setups that could emerge. Champs with heavy dive are who Draven hates playing against the most, so using your ban on a meta champ like Zed or Akali is a good idea. As for the rune page, Conqueror is likely to be the best option moving forward. However, Press the Attack has the potential to be an option as well. Another ADC who should be liking the direction the item and rune changes are headed for 14.10 is Samira. Samira is one of the few ADCs who's actually been running Conqueror in recent patches, so with all the other precision tree keystone runes being changed, she walks away unscathed. Samira's core items being the Collector and Infinity Edge are both getting more AD for this patch as well, which should really amplify her mid-game spike. With Bloodthirster getting its shield back, we should expect to see it more often as a third pickup instead of Immortal Shieldbow. Shieldbow is losing its lifesteal for this patch, while Bloodthirster will have lifesteal and a shield. Matchup-wise for Samira, since the champ wants to be playing as aggro as possible, banning out a support like Braum or Lulu who can limit that all-in power is good value. Samira's rune page revolves around Conqueror with Triumph, Bloodline, and Last Stand. Best secondaries are Sudden Impact and Treasure Hunter. More raw AD on the Collector and Infinity Edge will heavily influence the strength of Jhin as he's rounding out the top 3. Of course, Stormrazor is being removed. However, the Collector with the IE had already been a really good performing core in recent patches, and with it getting stronger in 14.10, Jhin really shouldn't mind losing Stormrazor at all. The core that we expect to take over on Jhin for this patch consists of the Collector, Infinity Edge, and Rapid Fire Cannon. With 4 items, you'll be able to get 100% crit now, which is going to make Jhin feel absolutely nasty in the late game. Being able to crit on every auto attack will have Jhin zooming around in fights and be extremely difficult to take down. Of course, this is because of Jin's passive to where he gains movement speed when he crits. The movement speed that Jhin gains when he crits was even just buffed a few patches ago, so everything is aligning super nicely for the champ as of late. Your ban when playing Jhin is usually best used on a dive champ who's got a high play rate, and right now Akali or Zed are good options. The rune setup for Jhin revolves around Fleet Footwork with Presence of Mind, Bloodline, and Coup de Grace, while Celerity and Gathering Storm are for secondaries. ADCs are going to be spiking really hard in the mid game for 14.10, so for support this patch, playing a scaling enchanter like Sona should make games that go past 25 minutes an absolute lock. Sona has been one of the best solo queue enchanters ever since her scaling buffs from 14.7. All the healing Sona is able to spam out in mid-game fights gives her incredible extended fight power. Not only is her ability to keep carries alive super good, but she's one of the few enchanters that can start fights on her own. Sona's R can be so impactful for finding catch plays, and it gives her the ability to influence games more than just sitting back and healing teammates. Moonstone with Archangels is the standard 2-item core for Sona, while Dreammaker is the support item upgrade. Supports who have long-range catch power are who you want to prioritize your ban towards when picking Sona, so Thresh and Pyke are 2 good options. Rune page consists of Aerie with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Gathering Storm, while Conditioning and Revitalize are the best secondaries. If our prediction is right in that we'll be seeing more Jhin, Draven, and Samira for 14.10, Zyra is going to become an even better support pickup. Zyra loves playing with ADCs who have the ability to follow up on her catch plays, and all of those ADCs can do so. We'll have to see how powerful Blackfire Torch ends up being on Zyra, as the only way we see her buying it as a core pickup is if it completely replaces Liandry's. We've seen how Zyra doesn't really need any mana on her items to succeed this season though, so if you do end up going Blackfire instead of Liandry's, you're trading health for mana, which is not something we think would be favorable for Zyra. For now, Liandry's with Rylai's is the standard core, while Realm Spike is your support item upgrade. The champs with instant catch strength are who Zyra struggles more against, so using your ban on Blitzcrank is good value. Rune page for Zyra revolves around Comet with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch. Optimal secondaries are Taste of Blood and Relentless Hunter. Rounding out the top 3 for support is a champ who should be loving the direction of the ADC meta for this patch, being Blitzcrank. With less scaling lethal tempo users in meta and early game dominant picks like Draven, Lucian, and Samira popping up more often, the snowball potential of Blitz should be really great. The changes to boots will be something to pay attention to when picking Blitz for this patch, as mobility boots are being removed. The new boots taking its place are called Symbiotic Souls that eventually upgrade into giving you a ton of bonus movement speed after you travel 150,000 units of distance. Mobies were so nice to grab early in the past though, because they gave you that instant roaming strength, whereas this new version won't provide as much movement speed until later in the game. This could mean that swiftness boots just become the more attractive boots options for supports that want to roam early on now. The core build for Blitz consists of a Trailblazer Rush into Locket second, while Celestial Opposition position works great as the support item upgrade. Ban-wise for Blitz in 14.10, Ezreal should be pretty weak now with the changes to Essence Reaver, so prioritizing your ban on a support who limits your catch strength like Morgana or Braum is a good idea. Your rune page should consist of Glacial Augment with Hex Flash, Biscuits, and Cosmic Insight, followed by Nimbus Cloak and Celerity for secondaries. Alright guys, one last thing, our rank up guarantee is insane. It's like signing up for the gym and getting a refund if you don't get ripped. That's how confident we are in SkillCapped. We obsess over making the best guides with top players, rigorous testing, and top tier video editing to make your climb easy. If you're ready to level up, visit SkillCapped.com and see the difference. So there you have it guys, a complete look at some of the best solo carries for every single role as we head into 14.10. Thank you all so much for watching, we'll see you in the next one.